This is the Ripple Effect of Wellbeing in Work and Life. I'm Dr. Ken Thompson, here with Dr. Stephanie Romero.
On this show, we explore how holistic well-being practices can transform our individual lives and our collective capacity for care.
We're bringing you the science, the stories, and the specific practices that reduce stress and build resilience in our homes, our offices, and our communities.
We're talking to people to see how their perspectives, practices, and work are creating a ripple effect for a better world.
Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to Awaken's Ripple Effect podcast. Our guest today is Adam Lackett. Originally from Boston, Adam moved to Pittsburgh to earn his Bachelor of Architecture at Carnegie Mellon University. By 2011, he was deep in the entrepreneurial trenches, founding Engine House, a high-end design-build construction company based in Pittsburgh's East End. But as many of our listeners know, the building doesn't stop at the job site. The challenges of starting and growing a small business eventually led Adam to mindfulness and meditation as a way to develop better skills to cope with the inevitable stress and burnout of the industry. Those initial explorations have since evolved into a deep appreciation for wisdom traditions and a real intention to create more space for mindfulness, both at work and at home in Wilkinsburg, where he lives with his wife, Emma, and daughter, Zelda. When he's not designing or building, Adam is practicing a different kind of skill set, the art of simply being present without doing anything productive at all. Hi, Adam. I'm so happy to be in this conversation with you today and deepen our relationship. I know that we've known each other for some years now, actually, but it's been a minute since we had a deep conversation.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Stephanie.
Yeah. I would love to start off by just asking you, how did you become an entrepreneur? That's not a path that everyone takes.
Well, I think that it maybe came from an implicit assumption that the way forward in life is to work hard and succeed and self-actualize. I grew up in a kind of typical suburban household, and I think there wasn't really a lot of awareness and education around, some of the things we're talking about today, meditation and mindfulness. And so I just had in mind that, I was going to work hard and succeed. I went to architecture school at Carnegie Mellon. That's what brought me to Pittsburgh. And the culture there, really reinforced these ideas about doing, the way to do well in that environment is to stay up all night and just be constantly, working, living, breathing, architecture. And I think, that reinforced my early upbringing and beliefs. And then when I graduated from school, I went right into the trades and, really enjoyed that work and was feeling really motivated and driven to immerse myself in it. And so the first opportunity that I had to get out on my own, I took it, doing, smaller jobs for people. And I didn't, really at the time I thought I was pretty naive and I thought, oh, I can do this all really well. And in reality, I was incredibly underprepared for what I was taking on. The idea of starting a business. I was undercapitalized. I was inexperienced. I had no understanding of how businesses work. And so kind of unwittingly, I kind of continued to put myself in a sort of pressure cooker environment where, um, in order to sort of meet my expectations for success or how well I should be doing, um, I just had to work all the time. I just uh, the only way I was going to make it is just by grinding and grinding, and I kind of just got into this environment. And this was so I graduated architecture school in 2008. I started my business in 2011, and then for the next 5 to 10 years, I was just kind of school of hard knocks, learning all the things that I didn't actually know about, what I was trying to do. And um, the difficulties that I was encountering led me to really kind of narrow the focus of my life and activities. All I really did was work or kind of optimize my lifestyle to uh, um, or my lifestyle to work and get as much done as I possibly could at all times. And what I found was that after a while, it was a struggle the whole time. But after a while, I was realizing that I just wasn't really coping as well anymore. I think that was maybe gradually dawning on me that it wasn't really going to get any better than it was. I mean, maybe I might have a little more success with the business, but just from like a personal like wellness, peace of mind, happiness perspective, like I wasn't doing better, and maybe the opposite, in fact. So, I was kind of confronting this hard truth about my situation, and so, some discussion with my partner, uh, decided that, maybe I should try some therapy, and that maybe this would be an avenue for me to work through some of these challenges I was having, some of the dissatisfaction I had with the way things were in my life. Um, and in therapy, my therapist, really kind of astutely observed that um, for what I was struggling with, maybe looking into mindfulness would be helpful. And so I started off by reading some of John Kabat-Zinn's books, and found this to be really rich and resonant for where I was. And that led me to look into the 8-week program that John Kabat-Zinn developed, called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, which these are programs you can take in any major city at a local hospital. And that course really hit me hard. I mean, it was I left with the overwhelming impression that like this is where I need to be. This is the fertile ground that I need to be exploring to grapple with the things that I'm struggling with my life and my business. So I don't know. Hopefully that was on on point enough with the question, but that was just maybe a little synopsis of my entrepreneurial journey, and why I'm on a mindfulness podcast right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think pretty, it's pretty typical that people find mindfulness, meditation, whatever therapy, self-reflective practices, whatever you want to put in there, because they're not finding joy, or they're dealing with depression or anxiety, or whatever mental health challenge they might have. Myself, I came to meditation through a divorce, and the kind of feeling of loss and trying to rebuild my life after that. And so I think your story, although each of our stories is unique, is that commonality of trying to deal with the struggles of life and realizing, no, there's a thing that could give me some tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciated you talking about the feeling like you are working continuously, nonstop, all the time to, I think that's the entrepreneur story. And even though I'm the founder of a nonprofit and not a for-profit, it's the same. The need and the amount of things to do are endless.
Yeah, I found when I started meditating um, during the MBSR program, um, it was just so hard to stop. I mean, I was struggling with this anyway. Like weekends were some of my worst times because I had this constant inner voice just telling me all the things I should be doing, and I was just so tired. Like I needed some break, but the time wasn't restful. I was just feeling like I was just goaded all the time by my inner drive to be getting more done. There were all these things I could be doing. And so meditation was similar. It's like you take this break, and you have to just sit in this stew of all your mental noise. And I think it was first I think I was just becoming aware of how um, difficult and troubling my inner mental environment was, and that was leading me to make some external changes and just lifestyle things like that. And I almost had to do those things before I could sit effectively with what was going on in my mind. So it took a lot of time to back off from where I was after 10 years of just um, constant drive.
Yeah, I love the way you're kind of framing this as something almost iterative, like you're sitting and noticing your thoughts, and then you're having to change some things in your external reality to create more capacity to be able to sit with your thoughts, right? So it's a
Yeah,
kind of like iterative process. The more you sit, the more you see, the more you see, the more you need to work with to allow space for you to actually fully be present. So I love that kind of, yeah, that kind of iterative process you're describing because I think I feel it too.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of people kind of just assume that if you're in leadership or if you're an entrepreneur, there's just gonna be stress. Like that's just part of it, right? And that actually there are tools to help us deal with those stressors, but there's also something called boundaries that that we can set, right? To
Yeah,
preserve some time for family, and I think this word self-care is really overused and has a weird connotation anymore. Like we should just all go to the spa and I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it has some kind of
yeah.
connotation, but it's also real. Like if we're not getting enough sleep, if we're not actually tending our inner lives and being in relationship with people, like we aren't, I don't know, we're not being fully human and caring for our humanity in that way. But I guess I'm just curious about, how did you make that shift that stress is not necessarily just needing to be omnipresent?
Well, I think there's the skills that one can develop, the skills and tools, as you reference from meditation and mindfulness practices. Um, but there's also some attitude changes or working with how we show up to things and um, how we treat ourselves. And I think I had to do a lot of work to be just sort of gentler with myself and more forgiving of my inability to do all the things that I wanted to do or thought I should do or felt needed to be done. I can remember one of my early experiences practicing. Um, there were some um, guided meditations that were, um, loving kindness based, and just like crying. I mean, I almost feel really emotional right now just talking about it because the idea of um, extending to yourself that kind of care um, was such a departure from where I was at, and was really powerful. So I think a lot of fostering of that, a lot of attitude change helped a lot with boundary setting, because if you um, can internalize that you're deserving um, of space, of wellness, of the ability to kind of be happy, um, then that helps you set the boundaries that you need to set to work on your external environment. I mean, you still have to do a lot of internal work, but I was just so far from that it was really revolutionary, like some of these ideas, like working with some of these concepts.
No, that's so well said. Um, I think a lot of the folks that we work with meditation and mindfulness, it is creating a space where they feel like they actually deserve the care, right? And I think the other thing you were alluding to is that our inner voice can be very self-deprecating and critical. That inner critic we all carry, right? So really being able to kind of identify that and say, thank you for wanting me to be perfect and I have a human limitation, right? Thank you, inner critic, for wanting me to be Superman, Superwoman, right? And that's not real, right? There are limits in what I'm physically, mentally, emotionally able and capable of doing. And that ability to care for ourselves in that way really, really is revolutionary. Like, I love that you use that word because it shifts everything, right? It shifts everything once we decide that one, we don't have to absolutely do and be everything, and we can't, right? We admit that. And two, that as much as we love and care for others, we actually deserve the same love and care. Yeah, I'm curious. I love that loving, just to say, I also love the loving kindness practice. It's one of my favorite practices. And in the tradition that I trained in, there was a point where it's called metta in Buddhist practice. And I did it every single day for a year, like the traditional metta practice. And it really shifted something in me as well. And it's something about starting from the place of care when I relate to others and when I relate to myself, just like starting from that place instead of
Yeah.
it being an afterthought or something that you try to conjure up.
Yeah, or just kind of leading with whatever you're trying to get out of an interaction, or having everything just be transactional.
Yeah, and that's so much of the world we live in, right? Yeah, I guess I'm curious about how this kind of very personal journey of meditation and mindfulness has translated from, you learning how to set boundaries and care for yourself in all the ways to how how you're bringing it into your workplace and how that happened for you.
Hmm. Well, work is kind of the ultimate teacher for me, because it is still the sort of majority of my life, and where most of my energy and attention is placed. Um, so it's been completely transformational for my work. Um, we, um, you know, I think just, going back to some of the tools that you referenced, I think that my my work in meditation and mindfulness has allowed me to um, maintain a much healthier and broader perspective about um, why I'm doing what I'm doing, what my long-term goals are, um, how any given interaction or thing that I'm doing can kind of tie back to those long-term goals, instead of being caught up in a more emotionally reactive, um, just kind of like ping-ponging around in the day of reacting to whatever it is that's coming at me. Because most days are a series of unexpected things coming at you. And, they and it's really easy to just kind of get caught up in the momentum of that and feel like you're just sort of riding a roller coaster and it's exhausting. And so it's really helpful to um, have practices that um, allow you to not be so closely identified with your um, reactions to things, and just have some space around what's happening. So that's, I think, in a high level way, how some of the practices have been really transformational for me.
Yeah, that's a big one, right? Like we sometimes assume that if we have a thought or an emotion that that's reality,
Yeah.
right? It must be true. I thought it. It must be true. And really, it's not reality. It's just a thought. It's just an emotion. And, when we can create, like you described, create that space to see when we have a reaction and to notice it and not necessarily act on it immediately, to give that little bit of space to reflect, think about it, notice that it might be wrong,
Yeah. Yeah,
that
absolutely.
that's really a game changer, right? That's really a game
Yeah.
changer. And I think that choice in response, right? That choice, and you kind of said not identifying with it doesn't mean that that's who I am, right? Is really the word that's coming to mind is maturity, but I'm not sure if that's the word that I'm looking for.
Yeah, terminology that's been really helpful for me is thinking about reacting and responding skillfully. That's always been a really resonant concept for me because referencing how I started this, like, I didn't grow up with any training, how to work with the mind. These really just fundamental um, things about the way we're set up are workable. We can change the way we utilize our mental processes to be more skillful and more effective. And instead of just kind of riding in these like default setting of, like emotion comes up, react, thoughts come up, identify like that's reality. Um, and they're just such necessary skills for the context in which we live right now with so much, um, media and our phones. There's so much commodification of our attention. And we need those skills to cope, I think, and to exist um, effectively in this environment and hope to kind of thrive with so much being leveraged against us.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that too because I think everyone feels bombarded
Yeah.
with information, messaging, advertise, like all the things, right? And so how do you, instead of being kind of yanked in every direction, how do you like stay centered? And I like the word skillful too. That's a useful word, but how do you stay centered and be in choice,
Yeah.
right? About where you're going to spend your time, your attention, your money, all the things, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
not to be like too hyperbolic, but at times in the last several years when I've been um, really dialed into practice, like very regular, very able to invest significant energy into to cultivating practice. I've had this feeling of almost like I've developed a sort of superpower, like my ability to interact with the world is so different than when I am in this state of overwhelm and just like responding to stuff. And I can't, it's hard to overstate the power that these practices can give us to improve the quality of our lives and our mental states.
I guess just playing a little bit of devil's advocate, I get asked the question from leaders and organizations about return on investment. And I know you've brought some practices to staff. So, you were kind of describing this state you were in prior to meditating of like feeling like you needed to work all the time, right? So, comparing that to now, do you think your productivity has gone down because you've set boundaries and you started taking more time for yourself and you're not constantly working? Like, what's that return on investment of, and then also, so like that personally, and then also like thinking about what's going on with your staff?
Um, I would say that my productivity has definitely gone down. And maybe that's not the answer that would be attractive to the business community, to hear. But I wouldn't say that it has plummeted, and I would say that I am able to exercise significantly better judgment in the day to day in my decision making and where and how I'm directing my energies. And I think that the selling point here is not around productivity, it's around like balance, um, where we need to shift our goal from being as productive as possible to um, cultivating wellness and people and communities. Like that's really the goal. Like what other goal could possibly matter more than that? And so when you make that shift, a lot of things change and it becomes, I think, um, still important, but a little less secondary that you're extracting the most productivity you can out of people. You're creating companies and um, behaviors that support people. And, long term, I think that um, we'll have better outcomes, possibly more productive outcomes, if you want to pitch it that way, than just purely um, production focused mentality.
Yeah, and what I hear you saying is supporting your staff's wellness creates a community, which I imagine then would reduce something like turnover or possibly even like days off because people are feeling whole and healthy and supported.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have done, we're still doing a lot of work. We've done a lot of work over the years of trying to um, make our company an employee-focused company that um, really supports sort of long-term retention of our staff, and basically like very vocally working towards supporting our people to have a better quality of life. And we're doing that through, creating a lot of flexibility in work schedules, um, trying to increase the benefits and wages of our people. It's really like the frontier of our business right now is how can we create the best culture possible for our staff, and we're doing that uh, as a form of enlightened self-interest, because we do think that this is the best way to create a great sustainable company that's going to serve people well.
Yeah, I know. I guess I'm really curious about, so you have consumer or customer facing work in your work, right? Do you think that having more mindful staff, bringing mindfulness into the work with staff has supported them doing better in that customer relationship? Or maybe even just for yourself?
Oh, definitely for myself. Um, yeah, I mean, fostering mindfulness practices and meditation in the business is, and not, we haven't really cracked yet because it is a personal, very personal practice that I think, one needs to be, um, sort of ready for in a certain number of ways. I mean, meditation is just speaking personally, it's like so hard. It's like the simplest, hardest thing I've ever done. Like, akin to like just trying to like learn another language, from a book or by yourself, It's just like this fundamental shifting of um so many things that are habitual and just sort of baked into your cake, if you will. Um, so I think what we're doing right now is trying to provide some opportunity, if people are interested to like dig into this um, and to kind of leverage, at least myself as a business owner, leverage lessons and things that I've learned through my practice to um, hopefully create a context in our business that is just, as I was saying before, less production focused, more wellness focused. Um, and I think that those things are impactful. They're, difficult to quantify. Um, but I think that people are generally going to probably do a better job, have more positive interactions with their coworkers and our clients um, when they're coming from a more supported place, a place that's fostering those values rather than a place that's extremely bottom line focused or um, you know coming at it from any number of different angles. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, you can't mandate meditating or mindfulness. Like, someone has to kind of come to it. Although you can offer opportunities, like you said, for people to try it out, but you can't mandate it in any way, shape, or form. It has to be kind of an opt-in thing. I guess I'm curious though, as you're offering, is there a way that you're framing it for folks to say, hey, you might want to try this, or For example, when you brought in some of Awaken's programming, how did you pitch that?
Um, I think I wrote an email. Let me see if I can remember. There was a funny little proverb. Um, something for I'm going to butcher this. Forgive me. A person was standing by the side of the road, and down the road came furiously galloping another person on a horse, and the person standing by the side of the road shouted to them, "Hey, where are you going? Where are you going so fast?" And the rider called back, "I don't know. Ask the horse." And uh, so that just a little dangling kind of glimpse of this like maybe um, human condition that we're suffering with. We're all working so hard to get someplace, but like, do we really know where we're trying to get to? And and that was it. I mean, that was like, hey, this is a thing that's helped some of us personally, and we think it could be helpful for other people. And if you're interested, check it out. I mean, beyond that, I mean, this is definitely an avenue where, I think where our conversation, you and I, Stephanie, and our organizations, our discussion is going to go next is, how can we do a little bit more? Like, how can we, um, show people, be a little bit demonstrable about the benefits of these practices? How can we pique people's curiosity and interest more? And, just how can we make this available to them when they're ready and when the time is right?
I love that story of the horse. That's a good one. That's a good one. I might steal it. Well, is there anything, Adam, that you were hoping to talk about with me, or anything that I didn't ask you about that you think is important to add to this conversation? And yeah.
Oh, I don't know, Stephanie. I'm just a lay person. I'm not a wellness professional or someone who even really talks about this stuff very much because in a lot of ways it's sort of a private practice. So I'm not sure what would be most helpful for people um, to hear about, or how to best get people engaged with these skills that can be so transformative for their lives.
Well, I think, you're underselling yourself, because I even the wellness experts, right? They started by coming to a practice and exploring it, and I think most entrepreneurs, business leaders are just like you, right? They're struggling with day-to-day things in their lives and how to balance work and family and all of the things, and looking for ways to do that and ways to support their staff and being the best folks they could be. You know what I mean? It's all
Yeah.
like, I think the human condition is something that we all experience, and we all somehow think that somebody else has it figured out. you
Yeah.
know and I
Yeah.
think, being looked on now, since I've been leading Awaken for a while, as one of those wellness experts. Like, even in my day-to-day life, I have the regular struggles, that everyone else has: finding time to practice, finding time to exercise, eating too much chocolate, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever it is. I think we're all in it. We're all in it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe something that could be helpful to speak to a struggle of mine, um, because I have so much habit of a lifetime around thinking of things in terms of like success and failure and accomplishment. Um, it took me a really long time to, like, when I was learning about meditation and my early years of meditating, I was so frustrated that I felt like I wasn't getting better at it. I would comparing it to say like if I set out to learn the piano and I sat down and was trying to learn a little tune. And it's like if I sat down at the piano every day for a year and tried to play this tune and I was never any better at it, like would I stick with the piano? Like, no, I'd say I'm hopeless at this. Like, this is just not something that I can do. And meditation sort of feels like that when you come at it with a perspective that this is something I'm gonna do and master, and then just be able to, achieve a kind of blissed out state, a meditative state at will. And, really, the paradigm change or the perspective change is kind of coming at it and understanding that you're just sort of showing up there for yourself and giving yourself an opportunity to bring awareness to what's going on with you and give yourself a chance to kind of undermine and short circuit all these habits we have around um, goals and productivity and expectations. It's just this chance to stop and be, and that there's so much power in that, and in that stopping, whatever kind of constant habits you have. And it just really gives yourself a chance to like self-assess and choose to do something different if it's not serving you. You give us a chance to see the things that aren't serving you and an opportunity to do something different about them.
I like that a lot. I myself, when I first started meditating, because I'm such a horrible overachiever, was like, I'm gonna be fast tracked. I'm gonna be the gifted program. I'm gonna get the A plus, 4.0, whatever. We bring those attitudes to it. Like meditation is a thing that, we can get an A at or whatever, whatever our story is. Mine was that. And then after I started doing it for a while, I was like, maybe I should slow down. This is really hard.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to be in the gifted program. Maybe I need to just slow it all down because it is really tough and it yeah, it's not a thing where once somebody asked me, "Oh, do you know how to levitate?" When they heard that I meditated, I was like, haven't gotten to that one yet. Don't think I ever will. Like that's not the goal, right? Or whatever people imagine meditation is, right? Levitation's just a funny example because I don't know. I just think it's hysterical. Somebody thought that was what I was doing. But yeah, it's not what you imagine when you start. It's not, what people think it is. It's something totally different and at the same time one of the most profoundly transformative like you said the same thing, profoundly transformative personal experiences that you can engage in. And you were saying you practice the piano, you like the example of getting better at a song. For me, what's gotten better is there is an ease now to my practice. Like I don't fight with myself. Because I think when I started, I wanted to like harness the brain, harness the mind, make it do a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you're like
absolutely.
trying to force a thing, right? And
Hmm.
that's the hard part because you're actually fighting against yourself, right? And just learning over time how to be at ease, how to just rest into practice and just like you said, just be in practice as opposed to really like force fitting yourself to do a thing, right? And that, so many people ask me like, how do I make my thoughts stop? How do I, whatever they think they should be doing. And I think that's the thing you get better at is just allowing everything to be and being at ease with whatever arises. And that
Yeah.
and that's the A.
Yeah, I relate to that so much, Stephanie. I mean, my first years of meditation were just a battleground, and now I see my practice as a supportive thing in my life and not something that I need to struggle with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that you mentioned John Kabat-Zinn, but I always love, just in case people are looking for resources or books or supports, to ask folks if there's a thing they could recommend as a support on other folks' journey.
Personally, um, I'm a reader. I love reading, always have, and I almost always try to have some kind of mindfulness or meditation or Buddhism book going because I find that it just helps me to keep my intentions at the front of my mind, you know. Um, it's so easy to sort of slide into habit or sort of regress into these states that aren't really where you want to be. So just reading a lot in general is really helpful. I mean, the meditation and Buddhist writers are incredibly prolific. There are just thousands of books out there. Um, and I have, really enjoyed John Kabat-Zinn as just a kind of font of relatable wisdom. Um, I've enjoyed Dan Harris's books, 10% Happier books, Headspace books I liked a lot. Um, One book really blew my mind, and I don't know that it's necessarily a recommendation because it's pretty dense, but there is a book called The Mind Illuminated that was really appealing to me because a lot of the mindfulness meditation books can kind of come from a very spiritual place, like a real soft place, I would say, where um, I could find that a little bit frustrating or unrelatable sometimes. Like I just feel a little lost in the language or what exactly oh, was going on in these books. And The Mind Illuminated is just like a rigorous, detailed roadmap to enlightenment, a stated goal, enlightenment. And I found that to be um, just so rich. I must have read the first four chapters a dozen times because it just demystifies meditation practice and is just really helpful for if you're going to try to start a practice and you're very analytical, it's a great resource.
That's great. I haven't heard of that one, so that's awesome. So we'll add those in the notes for the podcast so that if folks want to follow up on it, that would be wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Adam, for taking the time to chat with me today. It was a good conversation and a good chance to get to know you a little better.
Yeah, definitely, Stephanie. I hope hope that people maybe find the conversation helpful or interesting. And it was fun for me too.